This is the Boundless Pursuit Podcast, a show highlighting the purity of the experience without limitation. Each week, we'll bring anglers as diverse as the fish they chase, whether it be from your backyard or your bucket list. Freshwater, saltwater, conventional gear, or fly. We're bringing stories and perspectives from fishermen from all walks of life, from across the country and globe. In the digital age, authentic communication and networking is critical, and I'd love to hear from you about show suggestions, potential guests, or general feedback. And you can reach me at boundlesspursuitfishing@gmail.com or at my website, www.boundless-pursuit.com. That's where you'll find the entire collection of written articles, podcast episodes, and media. I deeply value the feedback, ratings, reviews, and support of my listeners, and I look forward to hearing from you. I'm your host, David Graham. Now let's get on to today's episode. You know, there's something about the land-based angling experience that really seems like it's fishing at its purest. And it's been a theme on this podcast. We've talked land-based shark fishing in California, Florida, Georgia, around the U.S., and just foot soldiering all around the country for different species. But today's guest has trekked along the sands and rock edges of Australia on foot for species that most anglers will only dream of chasing. I was put on to Jack Jacobs of the Auzzie Fisha YouTube channel and Instagram page by mutual connection and former podcast guest, Chris Kratz. Now, if you remember, Chris is a guy that kind of networked his way from Germany all the way to Australia through relationships that he built online with Jack. Because genuine anglers recognize each other, and the passion for the pursuit of big fish is the great connector. And Jack got his start in land-based fishing on the surf scene of South Australia, chasing fish like monster tiger sharks and duskies. And in this conversation, we talk about Australia's shark fishing scene, its perception, and the necessary steps anglers need to take in ensuring that the sport is viewed in a positive light. Because whether it's in Australia or the U.S., land-based shark fishing is under constant scrutiny. Today, though, Jack has packed up his gear and crossed the Australian country to more remote northern territories. And here, the sandy easements into the water are often traded in for barnacle-clad rock and reef edges, where breakers are crashing against land, threatening to spoil any angler ballsy enough to step on them and launch a cast. And we've all seen those videos online, those videos of these giant plugs and poppers being cast from the rocks, yielding some kind of apex pelagic species like GTs, giant mackerels, jacks, and just a whole host of other hard-fighting fish. So today we're going to be talking about the culture of casting plugs from the rocks and going to extreme measures to land the fish of a lifetime. We talk about remote island camping, far from civilization, just camping, fishing, and hanging out with friends where the froth of the ocean is teeming with aggressive fish. Many of which you know, some of which you may have never heard of. This is an awesome conversation with a guy from way down south. This is the Auzzie Fisha, Jack Jacobs. Your name's Jack, right? I look through all your stuff. That's like part of my job. I have to snoop. I got to do my research. You know, I got to make sure people that come on here aren't wanted by the FBI. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I see guys. They're interesting, but let me make sure there's no suspect mugshots online. Let me make sure I'm not getting some weirdo on here. But is your name Jack? I saw some other one that you were referred to as Steve or something. I'm like, that's two very different names.
It's definitely Jack.
Okay. There was a photo of you holding one of those frilled lizards, like the lizards with the big things, and I thought it was calling you Steve. So I
think it's probably someone just making a joke about Steve Irwin or something like that. So.
Oh, that's too cliche. I was like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the American guy that brings up Steve Irwin to the Australian. I'm sure y'all get tired of that.
It's all good.
Many a young boy's hero, though. But anyway, Jack, you do your own crazy stuff. A little less reptile related, a lot more fish related. But I want to say I appreciate you coming on here. I have to show gratitude to the people that come on here from these far off places who've taken time out of their day to, compensate for the crazy time difference we have. It's early morning here. I don't know what time you go to sleep, but it's nighttime there. But shout out to mutual friend Chris Kratz, who was a previous guest. He put me onto your stuff. Really highly recommended you. And dude, I went way down the rabbit hole of like looking through your Instagram, your YouTube, and it's like, it makes you sort of like put, I don't know, maybe it's the humility in you speaking, but you're like, oh yeah, there's other guys that do way more stuff. But like the kind of fishing you do is like straight up bucket list stuff for American anglers. Most of my listeners are here in America. So there's a lot of dream topics for like the land-based angler to cover here between the sharks and the GTs and the pelagics from shore. So we're going to try to cover all of that. I'm going to try my best not to get too caught up in one thing and not fanboy out too much over these types of fish. But yeah, dude, I really appreciate it. So if there's one landing point, it's that my gateway to your page was through Chris, and it was specifically around land-based shark fishing, which has been a reoccurring theme on this podcast. I've had a few land-based shark guys come on here, but it's always fun to kind of see the difference geographically. So I guess the first thing I ask is like where you're based, because like a lot of Americans think of Australia as just like one place, and like we forget how enormous Australia is. So like where are you actually at? What's your home waters? Like what are you normally fishing that's close to home?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, David. Really stoked to be here. But so I'm currently living in Nhulunbuy in the Northern Territory, which is the top of Australia. And but we've only recently moved up here. I've only been here for a year. Was originally down South Australia. So myself and my girlfriend, we drove up here like about this time last year, and it was a big drive. It was about 3.5 days straight drive.
Oh.
So we covered many kilometres and we went straight up the middle of Australia from the bottom to the top pretty much. So it's really different to what I'm used to, but very lucky to be here, and it's an awesome spot for sure. And thanks for Chris as well for giving me a shout out and getting me on the show. So very stoked to be here.
That's cool. 3 days drive. And I was like, forgive my ignorance. I hope a lot of people from Australia don't even listen to this because I'm going to sound like such an idiot. But like, a lot of kids like me grow up like, you look at Australia as like this place everybody wants to travel to. But it's like, then you look at the middle of Australia. Like, so did you drive from south to north directly across the center of the state? Like, I look at that. Yeah. I look at that place. I'm like, what happens if you get a flat tire? Like, who's out there to save you? Like, there's nothing out there. You know what I mean? Like you got to really game plan just to make your way across the country, I would think. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what does the road trip look like?
Oh, well, to start off with, because I had to like put my like house up for rent, and I had to organize everything. So it was like probably a month of getting stuff organized. And then, we packed the cars, packed all our like clothes and all that sort of stuff. And we just headed off, and we had to bring extra fuel because the stops between fuel stations can be quite far, and you have to be prepared in case like you break down in the middle of nowhere with no service. So you got to bring extra water sometimes and all of that. Oof. But it was a good experience driving all the way up, and it was 2 days of just like straight highway driving on the bitumen, so it was pretty easy. But to get to Nhulunbuy, which is like way off in East Arnhem Land, it was like not sure of the like miles compared to kilometres, like with your guys, but it was like 700 kilometres of just dirt road, like rough roads and big potholes and creek crossings and everything. So that was a good experience. But we're definitely glad to make it here in one piece. So it can be a bit daunting to make those big trips, but we're definitely glad to be up here, and it's an amazing spot, that's for sure.
Yeah, at least it probably wasn't bumper to bumper traffic and dealing with other cars on the road. But so like the shark fishing wise though, has the bulk of that been in South Australia, or are you doing that as well where you're at now? Because I'm imagine that's like two completely different topographies or two totally different kinds of fishing to go from one side of the country to the other. So where's most of the shark fishing been at? On the south side?
Yeah. So I definitely did all my shark fishing down south, and like I originally, like when I first got into fishing, it's been quite a while now, but when I originally first got into fishing, like I always wanted to catch a shark. I was like, that's just what drew my attention. I was like just really attracted to it and was like so keen to catch a shark, but I didn't really have like anyone to get information off and all that sort of stuff. So it took me probably a couple of years of trying to get my first one. But I started watching Black Tip H's videos.
Oh yeah.
like his first ones like years and years ago, like sort of been at least 15 years ago probably. And I seen they were kayaking out baits. So once I got my like first kayak, I remember the first time I hooked a shark, it was rock fishing, and I ballooned out a big snook off the rocks.
Okay.
and then I was going on sunset, and my reel just took off, and I didn't know what to do. Like thought I had my drag tight, but I was like just kept on winding it up and like tightening it, and just kept on peeling line out. And I was just loving it. But it was starting to go around this point, and then eventually just busted me off on the rocks, and I was so devastated after like a couple of years of trying. I thought I was finally going to get it, but unfortunately that one got away. And then I think it was maybe a month later, my mum dropped me down at this beach by myself, and I just walked my kayak probably about 200 meters down the beach, this like nice spot, and I remember it being pretty rough, and I was like getting a bit worried to kayak out the bait because I was by myself and it was pretty rough. But I was like, I'll just do it anyway. So chucked a couple big squid heads on the hook and put a big sinker on there just so it would stay in one spot. And then just kayaked out the bait. I remember going up and down these waves, like I couldn't really see the beach once I went down a wave, and I was like, it's getting a bit sketchy out here. So, but I got the bait, dropped it back to shore, and then I was sitting back just chilling out, and it went off. And then I set the hook, and I felt good weight, so I was like, it's pretty good. Couldn't really feel many head shakes or nothing though. So I was sort of wondering if it was a shark or a stingray, but I kept on winding it in, got it in pretty close, and then I seen like a big white flash, and I was like, oh no, it's a stingray. I thought it was like the wing of a stingray.
Yeah.
But I kept on getting it in closer, and there was lots of weed on the line as well, so it was making it even harder. But then I got it in closer, then I seen the fin, and I was just couldn't stop screaming. I was like so happy.
Yeah.
Then then I finally got it in, and I was so stoked. And it was about a 6-foot bronze whaler shark, which is the most it's definitely the most common species of shark in South Australia, I reckon. Like there's plenty of them around the inshore waters. And then I got the hook out, got a we didn't have anyone to take a picture of it, but I just got a little picture of it on my old flip phone, and I was like so stoked. And then from there, once I got that first one, I just slowly started like working them out, getting the technique better, like getting more comfortable kayaking out baits and that sort of stuff, getting better gear, and just went on from there. And I was flat out addicted to it for years and years. So I've only just started stopped sort of shark fishing recently. I sort of moved on to other sort of fish species, but I've definitely loved it for a lot of years.
Yeah, that's a style of fishing that like a lot of guys get into just for the thrill of catching something big. But I don't see a lot of guys that continue to do it for really long. It's usually like they graduate up to, or transition into something different. It's also a lot of work. Like I've dabbled in it too. And but I've never gone all in on it. But I link up with a couple of the guys down here in Florida pretty routinely. And some of these guys, like the spreads they have, the money invested in the gear, like the put up time, the tear down time of just setting up to do it is longer than most of
Yeah.
my fishing sessions. Like I went shark fishing with these guys the other day, and it took like damn near 5 hours just to get the first bait in the water. Like, good God.
Yeah.
But when you're chasing after
effort.
when you're chasing after an animal that can get 1,000 pounds, it's like you got to have like a real smart program in place, I guess. So I always admire the guys that are really like diehard shark fishermen. But where you're at, or where you were at, like give me the rundown on some of the species that you run into, because I've seen a few pictures. The bronze whalers look so awesome. I don't even know how to describe that. It looks like a giant dusky shark, kind of. But they look like they get enormous. But then I see guys catching them on like spin reels. I'm like, how? How is that possible?
Yeah.
Like, what is the top end size? What are some of the other species that you can encounter out there? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, mate, in South Australia, it's pretty much just all bronze whaler sharks. I've done it for so many years, and that's pretty much all I caught. I think we caught 3 hammerheads in all those years shark fishing there. They're not the I think they're the scalloped hammerhead or something like that. It's not like the big great hammerheads like we get up north, but besides that, you get the odd great white shark that gets hooked, because there's quite a few great white sharks from like where I'm from down south.
Yeah,
they're quite common, but I never end up hooking one. I've spoken to a lot of other sort of people that shark fish there, and they've always said like they've hooked up to them, like they just get spooled in one run, or they just bite through the wire trace. I know one of my mates who was shark fishing at a beach that I shark fish quite often. He hooked up to this giant shark, and just his 400 or 500 pound wire trace was just bitten through in about 20 seconds after hooking up. So, but it's pretty much just the bronze whalers, but they're an awesome shark. Like the biggest one I ever got was just over 10 foot, which I was so stoked about.
Nice.
But I think they get up. It was a big fish. It was an awesome moment for sure. But the biggest they get up to probably about 12 foot. I've heard of a couple like being caught over 11 foot, but I don't reckon like 12 foot would be like a miracle bronze whaler, I reckon. So, but yeah, they're awesome species. They fight really hard. They get big. They look cool, and they're just an all around great shark to target. But we also get some. We call them gummy sharks and school sharks. They're a smaller species, but we usually get them like surf casting from the rocks or from surf beaches.
Okay.
I don't really catch those ones like kayaking out big baits. They're usually smaller baits like off the surf beaches or off rocky headlands sort of thing. But they're also a good fighting shark on like 40-pound tackle. They're and good eating as well, those sharks, but it's all catch and release from there.
Now those bronze whalers, like they have such an awesome build to them. They look so like streamlined, like athletes. Like when I see a fish like that, I'm like, the thing looks like it's built for speed. But then I've seen some of your tiger shark photos, which is like, I don't know, it's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, more like giant tank. But what gets me is like, a lot of the guys down here, like the shark anglers that go for the higher end fish like that, like some of your big tiger sharks, even the big bronze whalers, most of those guys are running in like big crews. Like they have got it's a whole team effort. Because I know that's like it's real systematic. Everybody's got like a role to play with tailing the shark, having the tools and equipment ready to go to get a quick release. But I've noticed you're spending a lot of time out there either totally by yourself, or maybe one other person, or your girlfriend, who must be a total beast, to like jump in there. Like, good God, these people are awesome.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, what's your like I like to use the word program, but I notice at least y'all get to back your cars up, and in many cases your trucks up to the beach, on the beach. But you know what I mean? When you bring in a freaking 12-foot tiger shark, an 11-foot tiger shark, like what are you doing like timeline wise to get in there get any potential photos and get the fish out? Like, what's your setup? What tools do you have? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely really focus on getting the fish in as quick as possible. Like I've always done that, like since the start. And it has like I did get better and better as like I got more experience and I got more sort of captures under my belt. But I think yeah, so I'm pretty laid back and cruisy about it all. But yeah, like I said, I still like to focus on it. But yeah, we're allowed to have our cars on the beach. So I just get all the rods set up. I usually only fish with one rod, so that makes it easier.
Yeah.
But as far as sorry, what was the question? Like, what do I do to?
Yeah, like you got like certain tools that you have that are like, I can't leave home without, I don't know, bolt cutters. I can't leave home without a tail rope. Like, things that you use to maximize getting the fish, in and out the quickest as possible.
Yeah. So once the fish is hooked, like I usually try to run like decent tackle. Like I like to run heavy drags and decent tackle to get the fish in quick. And then as far as all the tools I have, I usually always have a tail rope, and it does help when someone is with me. But when I'm solo, always have the tail rope ready. I've got wire cutters and just big pliers to get the hook out. And then once the fish, I know what the fish is doing. Like sometimes you have to walk like ages, so I grab a backpack. I usually have all my gear in a backpack ready to go. Or I have like my friends following me down the beach if the shark's running down the beach and they've got all the tools on them. And then once we get the fish on the beach, it's like I sort of tend to keep them like half in, half out the water, so the waves are still washing, so they still get a bit of water through the gills and keeping their skin nice and wet. They're not just drying out in the sun. And then it's usually get a tail rope on them, get a measurement, because I used to tag a few sharks as well, so I got the measurement and all that sort of stuff. And then tag in if I was still tagging them, get the hook out, and then just go from there. Just let them go after that and watch them swim off. I usually sort of push them in the water, swim them a bit, and once they swim off, it's usually makes it all worthwhile. But it's really pretty cruisy how we do it. Like we don't have big teams or nothing like that. It's just usually just a few friends on the beach kicking back, and then just having a good time, just having fun with it, and just enjoying your time on the beach, catching good fish.
Yeah, I think a lot of times that having a big team is more about being able to put more lines in the water anyway. So this is like, now we got more rods, a bigger spread. But it's like I always like to ask that kind of stuff because I don't know about Australia. I guess that's part of the conversation that's interesting to me is like the perception of sharks or the perception of shark anglers amongst the general population. I know in Florida, like, I don't know what the beaches look like that you're fishing, if they're like super remote or if they're public, if you're even encountering other human beings out there. But like in Florida, you have to be very like cautious and keenly aware of what you're doing because it's best to always like err on the caution that you're being watched and people are looking at what you're doing. And there's this idea that the shark fishermen hate sharks and harass sharks and kill sharks. Or that we're just out there dumping blood in the water, bringing sharks in where people swim. So I know that first and foremost, like you operate that way because the shark's health is number one. But then number two is understanding that you're kind of like a steward and an ambassador of the sport as a whole. Because like around here, it takes one dead shark, like one wash up, or like one idiot to get filmed by some lady on a condo to to paint a picture of all shark fishermen as being awful. So I was curious, like if you could have to fight with that as much, because I noticed most of your photos are like in broad daylight. Most of the shark fishermen in Florida only operate at night, mostly so nobody sees you. But man, like what is people's perception of sharks in general or shark fishermen? Do you get a lot of pushback from the public?
I haven't got a lot of pushback personally. Like a few of my videos on YouTube, they get like a few hate comments, and I think one of my photos on Instagram that got a bit of a bit of hate on it too. But in general, it's pretty good. Because where I fish, I'm pretty lucky. When I was living back down south, the beaches I tend to shark fish was only like a 20-minute drive from where I live. So it's just awesome. The beaches are public, so you do like there usually is people down the beach from time to time. But if there was people like camping at one end of the beach, I'd sort of like move down the beach a few hundred meters and just try to stay away from them. But people are usually pretty cool about it. Like everyone from Australia, they're like if they're going out camping, they're pretty relaxed. Like they walk past you and say, "Oh, what are you catching?" And I was like chasing sharks, and they're like, "Oh yeah," they were pretty like interested. They would like sort of chat to you about it, and they were cool about it. I've never had anyone like harass me down the beach or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But it is. I don't know what you mean. Like if a dead shark just does wash up, it sort of wrecks it for everyone, and then yeah, you might get some bad press in the news and all that. But yeah, I was also lucky because I live in sort of country Australia, and it's pretty. Everyone's pretty good, but I know like in around the cities, I know for Adelaide because that's the capital city from the state that I was from. They've got like pretty strict regulations on shark fishing. Like you can only shark fish from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
And you can only use like certain size hooks, certain size wire trace. And I think that's only been in for maybe about 5 years because you used to be able to shark fish during the day and you'd see people hook big sharks off the jetty and you'll just have hundreds of people around them. And it's just a bit of a chaotic scene, which can put shark fishing in a bad light. If they don't handle the shark correctly, then everyone sort of gets on the bandwagon and hates on shark fishing. But in general, it's pretty good in Australia, I feel like. And me personally, I've copped a bit of flack on YouTube comments, but you don't really look into it. You don't let it worry you. And I usually think I handle the sharks pretty good. So, I love just catching them and making them, like watching them swim off in good health. That's like what I do it for.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good here, like fortunately. So
yeah, that's good. That comes with the territory with the YouTube thing. It's like there's like unhappy people out there in the world who their only source of happiness is to get online. And I don't know who these people. They live in their mom's basement somewhere. They're just not happy with their personal circumstances. But yeah, that's always interesting though. Like it's like a good thing and a bad thing when you hear about like rules like what you mentioned before, where like, well, now you can like really only fish 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., certain kinds of wire trace. And it's like, it's good, but then it also, that kind of stuff around here anyway, makes me nervous. Because normally when like, if there's like legislation to ban something, they don't just cannonball in with like the knockout punch right off the bat. You know what I mean? It's like, they move in inches. But the end game is to like ultimately, like the end game is an outright ban. But it's like, let's take another step forward. Let's close in the walls until people start stepping outside those walls and say, look at them. They've gone rogue. They're not following the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Take more away.
No.
So not that that's what's going on, but I know I had mentioned before, it sounds like it's very recent and maybe not even in your neck of the woods or where you were at, but I had read online after I'd reached out to you because, I wanted to look up shark fishing in Australia just to look at, get an idea of the landscape of the sport out there. And I saw this headline about them pushing for an outright ban. It's like Australia takes one step closer towards an outright ban towards shark fishing. I was like, oh shit, oh no. And granted, I think this is more Western Australia, but it was like, I think this was as recent as like last November. And then like banning the use of wire trace. Like to me, that's like, let's take the first thing away. Now let's take the next thing away. Once they say no deploying baits with kayaks, that's it. Shark fishing's basically over. Which they've done that here. So it's like, what do you think is prompting that? Do you think it's, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you think is there's like a cause and effect behind everything. But like, where do you think? Granted, this is all opinion based. Like, where do you think that's coming from? This idea that they, I don't know, man, like, might take it away.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I don't know. I think people just think, yeah, they got like a really, like people in general just love sharks and they don't want to see them get hurt. And for some reason, like fishing for them, like they're okay if you catch a normal fish off the beach, but if you catch a shark, it's like completely different. It's this whole new thing, like you're catching this precious sort of animal. But yeah, I know I'm not real sort of read up on the Western Australia topic, but yeah, I know like once they've like they had a few shark attacks, and I don't know if they sort of contribute people shark fishing off the beach and maybe bringing in sharks
Yeah.
that could cause attacks. So they're like, oh, we should ban shark fishing to stop the sharks coming in closer contact with people and all that sort of stuff. So that might have something to do with it. But yeah, it's a tough topic because yeah, I feel like most of the people like they get all up in arms if you catch a shark and in front of a huge crowd. And like you said before, like if a shark washes up and someone does a bad job, it just comes back and puts bad light on everyone. So yeah, I reckon it's more the case. I think it's just more the case of like people just don't want to see like a big beautiful animal get sort of pulled up on the beach and sort of have people running around it. They just want to see him swim free and be happy, sort of thing. But yeah, it's still like I think they're a strong fish. I don't reckon fishing for them's gonna hurt them much. So
right. Well, it's funny how there's like two total opposite ends of the spectrum, and I don't know where things like shifted, but like I remember, I'm only 37, but by many accounts, there was a time where like shark killers were like heroes. Like you were applauded. Yeah. You were the front page of the news if you were the guy that killed a shark. You were like, you did a great thing. And we'd see all these photos here in America. You know what it was? It was the movie Jaws. Like, it just terrified people. I mean, it kept people didn't want to go to the deep end of the local swimming pool after Jaws. Like, everybody's just terrified of the water. So there was definitely a period, at least here in the U.S., where it was like these photos of dead tiger sharks and dead great white sharks or big whatever type of sharks, like dangling at the local marina by their tail. I mean, this was front page newsworthy. That guy was like a hero. Local legends were shark killers. Yeah, everybody loved them. And then somewhere along the way, in like the last 60 years, there was like this total shift where now like the sharks are beloved, which, if you're going to pick your poison, that's probably better than the other way. It's you don't, it sucks, but you'd rather people be more cautious and more, I don't know, loving the sharks than wanting them all just dead. Like, oh, there's been a shark attack up in New England. And then they like send out fisherman parties to go out and just slay the hell out of sharks. We're beyond that, but yeah, man, it's an interesting one. And we see that here, and it's unfortunate that the people that do pass legislation, like normal folks aren't showing up to those like meetings to talk. You know what I mean? It's like the loudest, most like angry folks with their pitchforks and their torches that show up, talking about what's going on. This is a travesty. This is out of control. Like, so that voice is always the one in the ear of the people that have to like make change. But it's just funny. Like some of these folks that complain online though, I've had encounters out on the beach where like some woman or some man will walk up and ask, well, what are you doing? Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. And then like they walk off, and then you see them over by the sand dune on their cell phone. Like, I know damn well what you're doing over there. They act like they're your friend, and they don't want to confront you face to face, and they don't want the solid facts straight from you. They don't want the dialogue from you. The simple conversation could avoid it all. They go straight over, hide on the other side of the dunes, and call the police and stuff. But
I do think it's I do think it's better like these days, like still like with all these possible bans coming in, I still think, like you said, it's better than seeing like big sharks hanging up like on the dock by their tails and like sort of sharks being put as a bad guy sort of thing. But yeah, I think maybe just I don't know if like just the general public just needs to be educated a bit better. Like shark fishing, like catch and release shark fishing, it's as long as it's done right, it's just a good pastime to do. It's fishing in the end, and fishing's like it's always been fun for people, and we've done it forever, and it's just an enjoyable sport, and lots of people love doing it, and it's also can be good for the sharks, like doing like research. Like I used to tag a lot of sharks, and that could be used for potential like research down the track and actually look after the fish. So maybe a bit more education would help the public, and maybe people tagging and explaining that to people that you're actually doing a good thing, like helping the sharks out instead of just looking like bad guys trying to look cool catching a big fish sort of thing. But
yeah, I think a lot of times it's like in how you react, because it's very easy when these folks come at you with like aggression or come at you in an attacking way to like, the first thing you want to do is get defensive, like fuck you, like back off. But
exactly,
it's not the best way. You know what I mean? It's like I think like those people they try to like stoke the fire. You know what I mean? They try to provoke you into acting and showing your ass. So it's better to show that you're not some dummy out there dropping meat in the water and you just don't have it like you're some caveman on the beach. But But anyway, man, your shark fishing stuff is awesome. I love shark fishing here, but it's like you just dream. The American angler like dreams of places like Australia. It's like it's on every angler's like bucket list, and like you're right in the meat of it. But just transitioning now to where you're at today. Like, just tell me a little bit about like the transition from South Australia to North Australia. What is it, Nhulunbuy? I don't know if I'm going to pronounce that right.
Yeah, it's.
I'll try my best.
It's a bit of a tricky one, but Nhulunbuy. It's in Northern Territory in far east Arnhem Land. So it's a very remote spot. It's probably one of the most remote towns in Australia, to be honest. Like it's pretty hard to get to, and it's like way out in the middle of nowhere, and the fishing's absolutely sensational here. Yeah. But it was definitely a big move, like from south up to north, because everything's like completely different. Like you get really big tides up here, like strong currents, and like completely different fishing conditions, and you got like crocodiles to worry about, and like heaps of sharks as well. So it's just like completely different from south. But I've always dreamed, like when you live in south, you always sort of dream about the fishing up north, because it's just so much variety. The big fish and like just everything's just times by 10 moving up here. So it's exciting spot, but it does take a bit to get used to. Like you need to work around the tides and everything like that. But it's definitely been. I'm still like, because we haven't been up here a year, still learning heaps. But just chasing different species of fish, like throwing big poppers and big stick baits is what I've dreamed about. Like from down south coming up here, it's just like so much better. I love it. So enjoying it heaps.
Yeah, that is the stuff that like keeps you up at night. Like I'm telling you, like the videos, it's always the guys in Australia, or people at least with like an Australian accent. I don't know if they're in Australia. I see some of them are like in the Red Sea. Some of them are in like over in I don't know where. Like South Pacific Islands or something like that. But it's always these guys on these rocks throwing these huge plugs, catching pelagic fish from rocks. And it's like, I'm talking everybody wants in on that action. So I was like, excuse me. This is where I'm going to start getting fired up. Because watching your videos, and it's always like the way that y'all scream and shout when you get hooked up is like, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I don't know if that's good for the soul or bad for the soul. Like, you're going to have a heart attack out there on the rocks one day. But I'm so interested in those spots because I can't tell if you're on mainland, like Australia, or like, are you out on, maybe it's a little bit of both. But some of these areas that I see you standing on the edges of rocks, popping for, I think the most common one everybody sees are the GTs. But you've caught a lot of stuff that I think aren't on people's radar way over here. Like we all think of the GTs. Like that's like the first one we think of. But I know there's other ones that might even be more interesting to me. But where are you at? Like, how are you getting to these places? Are they right off the road? Are you having to use a boat to get to islands? Just tell me about like the accessibility of these spots and the nature of the fishing.
Yeah. So just to start off with like the land-based pelagic sort of like obsession I've got now. Like ages ago when I was living back down south, we were watching like all the morning tide videos on YouTube. I'm not sure if you know them or some of your listeners. Yeah, your listeners would probably know of them. But we'd always used to watch them and just think like it'd just be crazy going to these like northern places catching big fish on big lures off the rocks. That was just like the pinnacle of everything. But so since moving up here, that's all I've been doing, just flat out. And most of them have been just land-based spots. Like I've got a good spot, like it's probably only like 20 minutes away from where I live now, and I've caught some nice fish off there. But it's all pretty much just you drive to a spot. You might have to walk like half an hour to get to it, or an hour to get to some spots. But most of them's pretty accessible. There was one trip me and my mate did that was in Queensland, so not in the Northern Territory. But we flew up to Queensland from South Australia, and then we got a boat out to this big island that has like a resort, has like a few shacks on it, and it's a bit of a tourist attraction. And then we got a smaller boat from that island out to a smaller island, probably about 20-minute boat drive, and we fished for GTs and Spanish mackerel off the rocks there. And that was like one of those. We're stuck on this island for 10 days. We said like drop us off. Well, to start off with, we bought a cheap tent, like from bought a cheap tent from this this Kmart. And then cheap tent, got like a couple cheap air mattresses, like everything was just pretty average going. And then we like just drop us off at this island and come pick us up in 10 days, and that was just an unreal experience. And we caught some good fish, and it's just awesome to be out there and just like you wake up and you fish straight away all day, and the fish you can catch is absolutely insane, and so much variety. And it's just really intense fishing, like you said. Like as soon as you hook up, like you're using very heavy tackle to stop these fish, and you got big currents going past you, and like fishes, they hit so hard, like they almost pull you off the rocks if you're not ready. So you got to really be on your toes the whole time. It's a team effort. Like it's pretty hard to do by yourself. It's a team effort. Your mates sort of standing behind you in case you like get busted off by a fish on lock drag, so you don't like fall over and like crack your head open on the rocks or something like that. It's intense fun fishing, and it's
I want to get more into like story time here, because I know I'm sort of like throwing out broad topics. I'm like, tell me about catching these fish from these rocks. There's like that's like a big broad thing. Now, as soon as you started describing what you were just talking about, I'm like, okay, now that is like, I had actually jotted that down because I watched one of your videos and it blew my mind. Like, we don't have that stuff here. But I want to say, it was like, was that when you were fishing near, again, I might butcher the name. It was like the East Arnhem Islands or something like that. There's this video where this mackerel goes flying through the air. Like, looks like it's 20 feet out of the air, comes back down to the water, proceeds to almost get blitzed by a giant pack of bull sharks. Utter chaos has just like unleashed all hell upon y'all. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's fishing in the wild, wild west. Like, like this. Tell me about, so I want to know specifics about that 10-day trip. Like that's the stuff I like to know about. Now, you just like chartered a boat and said, like, what did you do? Just pay some guy and say, hey, drop us off on this island. Like, you can just do that? Like, how do you know he's going to come back? Is it a tour agency? Like, what if he forgets you?
Yeah. No, we sort of planned it pretty well. Like, to start off with, we did our research on like the islands, and there's one of the islands we've seen on YouTube that these other people fish. So it's not like it's some like deserted island in the middle of nowhere. Like it's got a few campsites on it, and it's not heaps far from like land. It's quite a popular spot, and people fish it out in boats pretty often. But so we decided the island we wanted to go to, done our research, like booked all our flights, booked the ferry over to the island, and then we got in contact with this dude. He said, I can drop you off and pick you up, sort of thing. And then we just fished for 10 days straight, and that was the main targets were GTs, but we ended up catching like queenfish and Spanish mackerel and all that. But so we got there like day one. We got there in the afternoon, and we just had a quick afternoon session for a couple of hours, and it was about a probably like a 45-minute walk. Really, really scenic walk. Like you're walking up on these big, tall like hills on this island, and it's absolutely unreal scenery. We walked down onto the ledge and started fishing, and it's just like you're working your way into it, like just warming up a bit, just trying to get a feel of a new location, because it was so much different compared to South Australia. This was before I come up to Northern Territory, so it's like way different to down south. And my mate was just walked off down the rocks a bit, and I was just like, wasn't even looking. I was just like, almost had my lure just sitting in the water, and like a small GT just come out of nowhere and smacked it and almost pulled me in off the rocks.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought it was actual big fish, but then like a second after, once I sort of got settled, I'm like, it's not that big. So managed to get that up on the rocks, and I was stoked with that. But that was the only fish we got for like day one. And then the next day it was good weather, good tides, because you want the big tides to really get the current moving for the GTs. That really fires them up. So we fished hard that all the next day, and we had like a few GTs come up and like miss the lure and like just get real fired up that they just weren't fully committing. And I remember it was about the same time, so the sun was just starting to set, and I was just like throwing lures, big lures all day, absolutely buggered. And then I was just like in the rhythm, just working the stick bait, and then it just got absolutely smacked by this big GT. I seen his whole like shoulders and back were out the water, and he just T-boned the lure and just like took it. It was absolutely, the strikes are insane on these fish. They hit so hard, it's incredible. And then he took a good first run on like fully locked drag on like PE8 tackle, and I was just, there's such an intense fight because you want to get them up as quick as you can, and it's just, and you don't want to get pulled in, and it's just insane. But I was trying to pump him up as hard as I could, but he was staying down deep and he was moving into the current, so it was real heavy to lift. But unfortunately, he just got me on like a ledge, and I lost that fish, and I was just absolutely spewing. But I was so disappointed. But we fished hard for like the next 3 or 4 days, and we had a few days where the weather wasn't good, so we just chilled out back at camp and just flicked lighter tackle, caught like little cod and other species like that. Then like the last 2 days we were there, the weather started coming good again, so we went back down to the main ledge and just started fishing hard again. I got one more small GT, and my mate got an absolutely giant Spanish mackerel. I think they're called kingfish where you're from.
I had like jotted that down. I was like, I need to make a very clear distinction here because people listening here, what we call a Spanish mackerel only gets like this big. They look similar, but they're like this. They're small little fish. I need to make sure people don't think that we're talking about our version of a Spanish mackerel, because the ones that y'all are catching, well, we call them king mackerel.
King mackerel,
and I think it's the same thing. Our king mackerel look exactly like the ones that y'all call Spanish mackerel. But they get enormous. And so when you mentioned that your buddy caught the big one, I think that video might be on YouTube, or at least I've seen the photos of some guy holding this thing like he's holding a damn log. This enormous fish. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, some people are listening. They don't even see me doing this, but for people listening, describe, lengthwise, size-wise, how big these mackerel get. Because we're not talking about our Spanish mackerel. We're talking about a whole other monster here.
Yeah. So, well, the one my mate caught, it was 166 centimeters, which I'm not sure what that is in feet, all that sort of stuff, but it was about 30 kilos, which would be, I don't know, around 70, 75 pound.
Yeah.
And it was, an absolute giant of a fish. He got him on a popper as well, and it was just a crazy fight. And it was so intense to try and land it because the wash was hitting the rocks, and it was just crazy trying to get this huge fish in. And it ended up snapping him, like breaking his line, like hit his leader on a rock, and it just snapped. And then the fish was like in the wash, washing around. Right, and we couldn't see it. There's all that white water, and then I ended up having to jump in and grab it, and then just get knocked over by the rocks. Lost my son. He's cut up on the legs, but it was worth it in the end because it was just a fish of a lifetime for him. But they do get even bigger than that. I reckon. They'll get probably 40 kilos plus, which is they'll probably get 100 pound, I reckon, and then maybe like 2 meters long or something would be like max. But yeah, they're a crazy big fish at that size. Just huge head, massive girth, and they're just powerful animal.
So I definitely saw that video online because I was like, I remember that. He breaks off, and then I guess it was you, like wearing like a GoPro or something, diving in after the fish to wrestle the damn thing to shore. And like, it's funny because you're sort of like mentioning that like it's a casual thing. Oh, that's just what we do. Like a lot of guys would just be like, we lost it. But what's crazy is like, it's such a, you know what I mean? It makes you one hell of a fishing partner, I guess. But, thinking about the element that you're still out on this remote island, probably far from the nearest hospital or anybody that could render any sort of aid. Tell me about like the camp life. You know what I mean? Like that side of it, the fishing speaks for itself. Like we all want to catch the big fish, but, just the lifestyle on the island for 10 days. What are you eating? Like you had to bring a lot of like food. Did you have like a satellite phone? Like what if something went wrong? Like what is your means of connection with the mainland?
Yeah, well, lucky on this trip, like, because it wasn't like a crazy remote island, and we always had lots sort of other people around us, and we had phone reception, which was lucky. But
nice.
which we were pretty lucky. But still, if we were down at the ledge, because you have to walk down a cliff to sort of get down to it. Like if one of us fell off and like broke their leg or something like that, the other, I'm not sure if the other person would be able to carry him up the cliff. So you'd have to leave your friend down there, get up to the top of the hill, call in like a boat or something to pick him up or something like that. So it'd still be a bit of drama. But luckily this island wasn't super remote, so you could get service and all that. But we just had lots of like canned tuna and like baked beans. We sort of like we bought a little gas cooker, so we cooked up like sausages. We had a small esky cooler, so we had some sausages and that sort of stuff. But it was mainly just living on baked beans, and we bought some pre-workout with us, so that sort of got us through the days. So it gave us a bit of an energy kick. But it's really good living. There's some other people there as well, and they went out spearfishing, so they gave us some fish, which was good of them. And
that's cool.
But and we also, unfortunately, that mackerel died once we landed it because they're very fragile once you get them out of the water. You have to be real quick to get them back in. But we wanted to release it. Like we love catch and release, but unfortunately we couldn't get it done. But that's like we could eat fish if we wanted to on those remote islands as well. It's always good to get a fresh feed of fish. But it's just a good lifestyle. Like you wake up and fish straight away, and just real laid back, and just definitely the way to go. Better than working 100%.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's like that is like the ultimate experience. I like see that stuff. I'm like, we throw around the term bucket list, and it's not just bucket list fish. I think like a GT's on everybody's bucket list, or a lot of people's bucket list. But like me, I'm more into like bucket list experiences. Like I want to catch certain fish, but like I want to catch them in certain places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like the experience of doing that, like throwing big plugs from the rocks or like the coral ledges is like, I mean, it's just dream fishing. So, like, watch your stuff. I'm like, this is so phenomenal. But so what gets me in some of those areas is like how marauding and like relentless the packs of sharks are. I'm like, on top of how powerful the fish is, the physical hazards of where you're standing in some cases, and then the threat of losing the fish to the rock itself. You also have to contend with, minimizing the fight time because your fish is going to get sharked. So I guess you're like locked down drag on these like incredibly powerful fish.
Yeah.
I watched one video, blew my mind. It might have actually been that same mackerel video where it went flying through the air. But it was like, I mean, these sharks are coming in hot. They're all over the fish. Like, I'm not going to reach my hands in there to grab the damn fish. Like, I'm not going for that. I think it was like your girlfriend or somebody just dove right in.
That was clutch what she did. Yeah.
I guess there's no way around it. I mean, what can you do to avoid all the sharks? It's just part of the game. Like, you're going to get taxed some percentage of your catches.
Yeah, so that's the only bad thing about living up here is the sharks are just absolutely crazy. Like, it's really disheartening when you hook a good fish, and we've had it happen so many times already. Like, you hook a good fish and it gets sharked, and it's just such a shit feeling, like you're killing a fish unnecessarily, and it's just a real heartbreak, and it really puts a downer on things. But yeah, if the sharks rock up, you just have to move. Like, you can't get a fish past the sharks, unfortunately, especially. Like, you can try like full lock drag, you can try to get them in quick, but most of the time the sharks are too quick. With the big Spanish mackerel, we've tried this once because like the mackerel will hit the lure, then once the sharks start coming after them, they'll jump to try and get away from him.
Yeah,
and we've done this once where as soon as they jump once, you just open the bail arm and let them free spool.
Let them run,
and then you just sort of like you feather and line out, and you're just following the fish with the boat. And then once you give it, I don't know, maybe like 20 seconds or something, you let it run away, and the sharks sort of lose interest, and then you go hard on them again to pump them back up to you. And we've done that once, and it's actually worked, but it's sort of hard to do in the moment, especially if you're drifting and the motor's off. It's a lot to do at once. So usually you try and get them in quick, just full lock. But we've seen several fish get like big mackerel and like GTs and stuff to get absolutely destroyed by sharks, and it's just disheartening, and it's just really annoys you. It's the only bad thing about up north here is the amount of sharks, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's rough. Well, we get a lot of that in certain parts of Florida too. It's like there's notorious areas where you're like the tarpon guys deal with it a lot, where they're, your fish are just going to get sharked. I've seen it in Boca Grande Pass near where I live. And what's crazy is like, it's hard to tell I think it's a lot of sharks. I think it's that the population is high in these areas, but I also think like they're not stupid animals like people think. Like, sharks aren't just idiots. Like, I mean, we get the same thing with our Goliath grouper. And I saw one photo where it looked like a grouper took one of your fish.
Yeah.
We got a Queensland grouper and Goliath grouper look like the same thing to me. It's like the same beast to deal with, but it's like they learn what your boat is. Like, they know what a boat means. And like, I've been to places over here on the east coast of Florida where like these gigantic Goliath grouper, like they'll sit under your boat and like look up at you waiting. Like, you're
waiting to hook up fish.
You're about to bring my food to me. And it's there's nothing you can do. Those guys sit around and get all pissed off about it. Like, you have to leave. You have to move. There's no way around it. But anyway, man, I want to talk about like the GTs sell themselves, and GT talk is kind of like a dime a dozen. It's a fish I'd absolutely love to catch. Closest thing we have is like we've got these fish here called a Jack Crevalle, which is like the smaller cousin. They look almost identical. They behave very similar. In fact, a lot of guys here are starting to fish for them the same way. They like go out on jetty edges and rock edges and are throwing big plugs and big poppers for like 40, 50 pound Jack Crevalle to try to simulate GT fishing. Like, you want in on that action, but maybe the money's not quite there to make that trip. But some of the other
Yeah.
fish y'all have are so interesting to me because they're very similar to what we have. And I saw one on your page called a queenfish that's
Yeah.
really interesting and just badass looking. But it looks a lot like we've got these little fish here in Florida that they get like this big. And we call them leather jacks. They're called leather jacks. They're actually a pain in the ass. They're like prick the hell out of you. They got these little spines that like, they got one spine that faces forward and another one that's up and then another one that's back. They all look almost identical. Surely they're related or in the same family as y'all's queenfish. But man, tell me about these queenfish. I don't know. Just give me the quick rundown on what they look like. Is the nature of the fishing the same? Is it just bycatch when you're chasing GTs? Those queenfish look awesome.
Yeah. Queenfish for me, they're just bycatch while chasing GTs. Like I've caught queenies like in the same spot. So I'm just mainly I rock up to the spot and I'm fishing for GTs and like queenfish being a pelagic fish. So sort of they pretty much hang out in the same sort of areas, like where there's current, bait, and structure, that sort of stuff. They hang out there. But they're an awesome fish. Like they grow quite big. They hit all types of lures. They fight hard, and they actually jump quite a bit, which is pretty cool. I know a lot of fly fishermen like chasing them on the flats as well, because they don't really run you to structure or anything. They just pull hard and they just fight good. But they're an awesome fish. They tick all the boxes, and they're an awesome bycatch. That's for sure. That's like some of the best things about GT fishing is like the bycatch. You can catch all sorts of awesome fish, and they all fight hard. They all hit like top water lures. They all hit hard, and there's great fish to catch.
Yeah, I saw one that I always love fisheries where you can send a bait out or you can send a lure out and it's anyone's guess as to what you're going to catch. It's maybe sometimes it's a pesky thing and you want nothing to do with it. But one of your videos, I don't know if you were on sand, you weren't on rocks, but y'all caught what looked to me like what we call an amberjack. And I think in the description it was a Samson fish, which then I Googled it. I'm like, what the hell is a Samson fish?
Yeah.
Now, is that a common occurrence or was that like a freak catch? Because I'm like, that looks like a giant amberjack caught from the sand. I'm like, I don't think that ever happens down here or up here, over here.
So Samson fish, they're in the same family as an amberjack. So you got like you got the Samson fish, amberjack, and what we call yellow-tailed kingfish. They're they're all in that same family, and they love catching them. They just fight so hard, but that one I got off the beach, that's when me and Chris actually went shark fishing to Western Australia. And we just had the shark bait out. And I remember seeing and we haven't caught nothing, like the day was pretty slow. And I remember like seeing this big stingray like sort of cruise about 20 or 30 meters offshore. And I was like, just want something to do. Like just hook something to keep me occupied. So I remember just putting on a fillet of mackerel and just casting the bait at it with my 40-pound surf casting outfit. And then I cast it out, it hit the water, and then like pretty much straight away, like my rod was going off. Like before I got it to the rod holder, I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like I didn't know what was happening. Tightened up and it just took off. It was fighting so hard. And then took a couple of nice runs and we got it to close to the beach, and I didn't have any idea on what it was, and was just seeing it was dark, and I thought it might have been a little shark, and I'm like, that fought pretty good for like a small shark, and we got it in, and it was a decent sized Samson fish, and we were just losing it. I was like so surprised. It was just such a crazy thing. But I think in Western Australia it's quite common to catch Samson fish like land based there, because we get a lot out on the boat back South Australia where I'm from. They're quite common on the offshore reefs, but to catch one off the beach, it was just a crazy thing. But I think it's quite common to catch them land-based in WA. I'm not sure what it is. It might be different water temperature or currents or something, but they come quite close to land quite often. But it was, a really surprise catch, and they're an awesome fish. I'd love to be able to catch them all the time. But it was a very good surprise.
Yeah. Well, there's one that you seem to catch with a little bit more consistency that I thought, I was like, now that's an interesting fish, because I had never even seen him until I saw your page. And the way you're fishing for him, again, it looks like it's from the rocks. It looks like it's like right in the rocks, like in crevices, like right beside the edge.
Yeah.
These fish, you call them blue is it groper or grouper?
We call them blue groper. Yeah, groper.
So in this video, you're taking bread. I'm like, what is this? Some kind of sea carp? Like, you're like throwing bread in the water. I'm like, I don't think I can't think of any other saltwater fish with any respectable size that somebody would use bread for. I don't know if you're using that as bait or using it as like an attractant. They're like, I don't know, man. Like, tell me about a blue groper and what is the purpose of throwing bread? Because that is an interesting looking fish.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely an interesting fish. And they're actually they're not actually a groper, they're a wrasse. And
okay.
I don't know why they called them blue groper. They just whoever discovered them must have thought they were groper or something. But it's a bit of a misleading name. But so they're pretty sure they're the second largest species of wrasse. The biggest one's the hump-headed marry wrasse, which is like what you get on the Great Barrier Reef and all that. But these fish are awesome and they grow huge and fight hard. But with the bread, that's more just like burley as an attractant. Like, I just chuck whatever I can get my hands in.
It's some of your lunch.
Just to just to burley up the fish, to bring them in, to like get them biting and all that sort of stuff. But when I first started chasing blue groper off the rocks, it was probably just when I sort of started to slow up with my shark fishing. Like, I sort of stopped shark fishing and much and wanted to chase other fish. And I was sort of wanted to catch another big fish that was like land based, because I didn't have a boat at the time. So I was like seeing like new blue groper, they come quite close into the rocks. So I just started doing that, and I tried doing it for a little while and didn't have any success. So I was just catching like little shit fish off the rocks and nothing too good. Yeah. But myself and one of my good mates, we had one session at this rock ledge that just drops straight off to deep water. That's sort of like the ideal. You get them in shallow quite often as well, but we tend to fish off like rock ledges that drop straight off into real deep water. But he ended up catching one small one on a crab. They love crabs. It's probably the best bait for them. And then I lost one, unfortunately. So I was disappointed about that. But then we sort of got on Google Maps and was looking at spots that looks like it has deep water close to the rocks, and we're like, right, I think we can drive to there. So we just Google Maps, and then we ended up finding a track to get down there, bit of a walk, and we sort of started catching a couple, and like they weren't too big. But then we had this really insane day where we just caught we hooked about 5, I think, but only landed 1, I reckon, because they fight so hard, and it's just some of these some of these rock ledges, it's like a bit of a drop to the water, and it's quite dangerous fishing. Like, if you get swept off the rocks, it's not going to end too good for you in most cases. But it's just like fishing. You pretty much use GT tackle, so you use big spinning reels, like big strong stick bait rods, and you're casting just like a heavy sinker with a strong hook, and using crabs for bait mainly. But you can use like squid and all that, and it's just full lock drag, trying to get these big fish up, because they just want to go straight back to the cave or their little ledge as soon as they're hooked. But that's what we did for probably a couple years. A lot. As soon as the weather was good, we'd just try and get to these remote ledges and catch a big blue groper. And we got quite a few good ones, which is good in the end, because it's a lot of effort to sort of get to these spots, and it's very satisfying to land like a good solid fish off the rocks.
Yeah. Do you see the fish? Are you casting the ones that you're looking at, or are you just kind of guessing that they're down there?
Yeah, so most of the times we're just guessing. Like, we find these good looking ledges where we think we can land them, and we know there's good deep water in front of us. So that's where the burley sort of helps to sort of bring the fish into the area you're fishing. So that helps. But yeah, most of the time you can't really see them. There are spots along the coast where they come in shallow and you can like sight cast them. But yeah, most of the time we'll just casting big baits into deep water, and then yeah, just waiting for because they bite pretty hard. They sort of suck at it, so you can feel like a big steady pull, and then you set the hook, and it's just all hell break loose
Yeah.
after that. So it's
Yeah, a lot of those
good fun.
a lot of those rock dwelling fish are like that. Like they have those. It's like close quarter combat. All they're trying to do is
Yeah,
dig to get back into the hole. You can't afford to like play them. It is like pure
yeah,
strength versus strength types of fighting. So I was watching a few of your videos where these things just look like they're giving you everything you can handle, but it's a unique looking
yeah,
fish too. Like that deep blue colors. It's really cool looking fish.
yeah,
Yeah, man. I don't know. Y'all catch so many different things. I mean, we could even touch on. I've seen a couple of photos where you're like holding tuna land based,
yeah,
but like between tuna and GTs and these queenfish and like coral trout, those giant
yeah,
mackerel. Such diversity. Like for you though, again, this is like opinion based, but like is there a species that's considered like the holy grail? Like the number one? Like what is the one for you that's like, oh, like this is the ultimate land based fish that you have,
yeah,
I don't know, near you? Like what's the one for you that maybe people wouldn't think of?
yeah, yeah. So that would probably be we get a species of fish called the mulloway, and
Mulloway.
that's when I was living down south because you get them on the surf beaches, so they're the absolute holy grail of beach fishing down south is a big mulloway, and they do get really really big. But it took me many years to get my like dream mulloway of like 50 pounds plus. Took me I think it took me 9 years to get it. I caught quite a few like smaller ones, and I was lucky enough that I was fishing with a couple mates. Every now and then they would catch one. Like I was fortunate enough to be involved in a couple catches of big mulloway, but I haven't caught one myself, so I was like, oh, I just can't wait for it to finally happen. But yeah, mulloway, yeah, definitely the pinnacle of beach fishing. Like down south is a big 50-pound mulloway, and they're an awesome fish. Like they're just, I'm not sure what they would look like compared to anything over your way, but yeah, they're just a big, long silver fish, big mouth on them, awesome colors. Like they're just pure chrome and silver. Like if you get them in good sunlight, yeah, they're just an unreal looking fish, and they fight pretty good as well. They hit baits hard, like just surf casting tackle. So
Yeah, no, I've
yeah,
seen the photos of that fish, mulloway. Although I think that's got to be the first time I've heard that name. I've seen
yeah,
fish that look like that or variations of that around the world. Gosh, there's
mm,
something like that in California that people. It's a very coveted fish there. Maybe they call them whitefish. I don't remember. And then like over on the east coast of the United States, it just looks like some of our fish blown up giant. That's what a lot of like
yeah,
y'all have. Your GT is a giant Jack Crevalle. Your queenfish is a
yeah,
giant leather jack. Your Spanish mackerel is, you know, not our Spanish mackerel. But
yeah,
that mulloway, it looks like what we would call like people call a whiting, or
yeah,
like maybe our sea trout, very similar to our
yeah,
sea trout, I think, but just gigantic. I mean, what's so special about it? It's like a rare fish. I mean, it's a
uh,
unique looking fish, but is it
yeah,
like hard to come by? Is it just like one of those fish you only catch once in a blue moon?
yeah. Certain spots down south they are quite hard to come by. They're a fish that it's hard to really describe. They're just such a special fish in the heart of many beach fishermen. Like you
Mm.
have to travel a fair way to get to the good surf beaches. So it's always like people can travel like halfway across the country to go fish these certain beaches just to chase them. And yeah, I think they're just an awesome target fish, and they tend, especially the big ones, like the little ones are quite easy to catch. Like you can catch them like anytime, wherever, like pretty often. Like But the big ones, like you have to sort of get the conditions right. They tend to only bite in certain periods, like that sort of thing. Like they can just come in wherever, but to catch them consistently, you really got to work them out, like with the moon phases, the tides, like the swell coming in as well. Like it's just a lot of factors that go into catching that big one, and like you can get lucky and catch one in your first time or something like that. But like it took me 9 years of hard fishing to get that big fish, and I'd go on weekend trips. Like I'd finish work at like six or something, like in the afternoon, then drive like 7 hours straight to these surf beaches, like sleep a couple hours at the surf beach. Like first, as soon as the sun comes up on Saturday, I'm like finding a good gutter, and then you just fish flat out like all day, all night, and then you drive back 7 hours home on the Sunday afternoon to go back to work on Monday. And there was times where I didn't even catch one mulloway or one fish. So then I was doing that flat out for 9 years. So it's just sometimes it's just once you catch one, it's just the best thing ever. Like it's just an unreal like feeling to target that fish, and it's just a special fish for like southern anglers.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I could sit and talk about the fish all day long. I had it on here to talk about some of the freshwater stuff too, but I almost want to like jump over that because like I always feel like when I'm in the host seat, I gotta like ask the questions on behalf of what people listening might wonder. And a lot of American anglers, when they think Australia, you think about the wildlife. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what we watch. Yeah. We watch the nature shows. We watch like Animal Planet. Like, you know, everybody, when they think Australia, they think kangaroos, crocodiles, those cassowary birds that kick your damn guts out. Like, I'm curious, you know, I'd be like remiss if I didn't ask about like wildlife encounters in some of the areas that you're at. But it's like, is that like a real danger? Like, we have it in our minds that like this stuff's everywhere. It's like you just don't even go near the water because there's crocodiles all over the place. There's you know, all the crazy venomous snakes and everything that can bite and sting you can kill you. Have you personally had any kind of unique wildlife encounters? Any sketchy ones? Any unique ones? Worthy of note, anyway.
Trying to think because I do like I am like right into I love like reptiles and catching lizards and all that sort of stuff, which is makes living up here really good because you're always looking for snakes and lizards and stuff like that. But no, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, like any sketchy encounters. But living up here now, we've got they're an introduced species, the Asiatic water buffalo. They're like a huge buffalo that's just since they got introduced up the top end here, like they've just run rampant, like they're everywhere, and they're quite dangerous. And because this is a small town, it's just surrounded by like scrub and wilderness, like they can come out of nowhere. So if you're walking along a mangrove bank or something, you could have a buffalo come out at any time or charge you or something like that. So you get and get big wild pigs up here as well. But I haven't really had any sketchy encounters for myself, but you got to always sort of be careful walking around and that sort of stuff. And I've seen a few crocodiles since moving up north here, but I haven't really got close enough to haven't seen one very close before. I was fishing off the beach once on this sandbar, and I looked behind me, and probably about 60 meters away, I thought it was a rock, but then I seen its tail come up, and I seen like its big like tail scoots, and I was like, yeah, it's definitely a crocodile. But once they sort of see you, they take off pretty quick. But I haven't had any close calls with one yet or nothing. But it sort of adds to the spice of life living up here. Like you just got to be careful and just respect the animals because they can be very dangerous at times. But it's not like it's not like you go anywhere and you're gonna just get killed by an animal. It's pretty once you it's a pretty safe spot if you just take basic precautions and respect the animals. But,
that's always like the naive thing. We get it a little bit like here in Florida. with alligators. Like, oh, there's alligators. And it's, it's like seeing a turtle. It's like seeing a bird.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, no, we have crocodiles here too, but not saltwater crocodiles, but they're like even more reclusive, more like they don't want anything to do with you. But, like I said, all of us outdoorsy guys in America grew up sitting around the TV on Saturday mornings with a bowl of cereal watching, people out catching crocodiles and stuff. So you just get this, it gets sensationalized. You got Crocodile Dundee and all this stuff. You think these animals, it's like, that's what, when you picture a person from Australia, that's what we think it is. I don't even want to know what people picture when they think of a stereotypical American. It's probably not so flattering, but yeah, man, that's always interesting. Those birds are actually the scary ones to me. I was like, watch this video the other day of a cassowary coming out of the surf, just like appearing from the ocean. I'm like, they swim around like that? They just like, it just like comes out of the water, walks up onto the beach and like walks past these people. Like that is a freaky. They look like dinosaurs. I guess where are those? Those are probably more in like, where is that at? Like Queensland area?
Yeah,
I don't even know where
cassowaries. Yeah, cassowaries are more Queensland. So on the east coast, we're like right in the middle up north. But we get emus down south. Like they're like the same size of a cassowary. They're just not colourful and don't have that big crest. But yeah, they're still a big bird. But that would get pretty protective of their babies, I reckon, if you sort of startled one, and they'd probably chase you or something like that. But they
nightmare.
I wouldn't want to get chased by one. It'd be quite intimidating, I reckon, getting chased around by a big bird.
Yeah, I don't want to get chased by a bird that can look me eye to eye. I'd rather be near a crocodile than a giant man-sized bird. That gives me I have problems with that. Birds are smart too. Although there's talking birds. There's birds that can do math. Like birds aren't idiots, but that's interesting. I don't know, man. Australia is just like it's just one of those places I want to go before I die. And I saw one video where you walk up on like a sleeping seal, or presumably like it looked like it's dead. Maybe y'all thought it was dead and poked, but it's not just any seal. It's like one of those predatory seals of death. Is that a common thing too? I thought leopard seals was like an Arctic thing. I'm like, I didn't even know those lived there.
That was actually one of my mates who did that. He just gave me the video and I put it up on YouTube. I think his video went like super viral on TikTok. It had like millions and millions of views, but it's definitely not a common thing. Like, I'm not sure what that seal was doing there. Like, I had no idea why. It'd be because they are like Antarctic, like down that way. And I've heard of another one sort of being seen at a beach, like sort of far north, South Australia on the west coast. And I've heard of one being up there, like sort of near where I go mulloway fishing actually, but I have no idea. They must just be very lost or have something wrong with them or something. It's very rare to see them over here, that's for sure.
That's interesting. I didn't know if that was a common occurrence, because those are like the creepy, scary looking ones. I don't know if it's a real danger, but I know that they're more so like, they're all predators, but they just, I don't know, they just, it's a scarier looking animal. But man. Well, Jack, I know we've mentioned like your Instagram, we've mentioned your YouTube channel a couple of times. Like, people who want to go see some of these videos and photos of all the different kinds of fishing, sharks, GTs from the rocks, the pelagics, the wildlife, where can they go to see your stuff? Instagram, YouTube, anywhere else? Yeah,
so I'm pretty active on Instagram. So it's just Auzzie Fisha. I've spelled it a bit funny ways. It's AUZZIE FISHA. So that's the same as my YouTube, and I've also got Facebook as well on that, but I don't really post much on there. But if they want to see all my videos, I've got a few videos of living up north on my YouTube channel. I want to do a bit more. I want to like get better camera gear, and I've got a better drone now, so I want to like really sort of up the quality of my videos and that sort of stuff, and keep posting more regularly. But I've got like all the like pelagic fishing off the rocks on the YouTube channel. I've got like all my shark fishing stuff, and the blue groper as well if they're interested to see that. But yeah, it's mainly just Instagram and YouTube where I'm most active on and posting all the catches I get. But yeah, definitely want to keep uploading. I've been a pretty slack on the YouTube recently, but I want to get back into it and sort of post more often on there. So
yeah, the YouTube's a hard commitment. That's a time-consuming thing when all you want to do is really just enjoy the fishing and not worry about fumbling around with the camera. But I've watched your stuff. It's freaking badass. Auzzie Fisha. I'm gonna throw that up on this. I'll throw that up on the screen in one area on the video version of this. I'll put it in the description. But I know a lot of the guys that I like this in the circles I run in angling groups, they're all into that kind of stuff, so they're going to eat this stuff up. But I have just started like my international traveling journey as a fisherman, stepping outside my comfort zone and going to places. But dude, when I go to Australia and do that, you're going to be like the first guy I call for tips and pointers, or maybe we can link up one of these days, because that is just like, geez, that style of fishing is like a must do, especially for guys that like boots on the ground, relatively budget friendly, or like relatable stuff where you're working. You're not aboard some $500,000 boat being chauffeured around by some agency. Like it's just, I don't know, man. Like the grunge element, like the workhorse element of it seems so badass. So I knew, like, when I saw your stuff, I'm like, finally, like I got one of the guys that does this stuff that I can talk to. So, Jack, man, I appreciate your time. And dude, let's stay in touch. I got to put together some kind of plan in the next 5 years. I'll give you some time to really dial it in up there. I know you're kind of new to you, but for sure, let's stay in touch. And man, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. We'd definitely love to have you over here. If you ever over, let us know. And appreciate you having me on the show. And glad to talk with you, and we'll keep in touch 100%.
All right, for sure, man. Have a good one.
All right, you too, mate.
Thank you for listening to Boundless Pursuit. Tune in each week as we bring stories and insight from uniquely talented anglers and outdoorsmen. And if you enjoyed this show, I want to hear from you. Be sure to leave a 5-star review, as this is going to drive the growth and exposure of this show. And if you have feedback or guest suggestions, I would love to hear from you. And you can reach me at boundlesspursuitfishing@gmail.com. For all other collections of media and contact information, please visit www.boundless-pursuit.com.